I still remember the day I stumbled upon Omar Gosh's case file like it was yesterday. As a seasoned paranormal investigator, I've seen my fair share of bizarre occurrences, but there was something about this one that caught my attention from the very beginning. Omar Gosh, a man who had dedicated his life to unraveling the mysteries of the unknown, had been working on a top-secret project codenamed Galactic Horror Files. The mere mention of it sent shivers down my spine. I had heard whispers of his work in hushed tones among fellow investigators, but I never thought I'd have the chance to delve into it myself. That was until our team received a cryptic message from an anonymous source, hinting at Omar Gosh's existence and the project he had been working on. It read, "The truth about Omar Gosh is more sinister than you can imagine. His research holds the key to understanding an ancient evil that threatens humanity's very existence." Initial skepticism gave way to curiosity as we began to dig deeper into Omar Gosh's life and work. We scoured through his bibliography, poring over articles and interviews where he spoke about his experiences with paranormal activity. It became clear that Omar Gosh was no ordinary investigator. He had a reputation for being fearless, driven by an insatiable hunger to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. His dedication to his craft was admirable, but it also made him a target for those who wanted to keep the dark secrets buried. As we delved deeper into Omar Gosh's world, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. It started with small things, a creaking door in our makeshift office, a faint whisper in the night. We dismissed it as mere paranoia, but the sensation persisted, growing stronger with each passing day. And then there was the phone call, a low, gravelly voice on the other end claiming to be an old acquaintance of Omar Gosh's. "You shouldn't be looking into this," the voice warned. "Some secrets are better left unspoken." The line went dead before I could respond, leaving me with more questions than answers. What had we gotten ourselves into? And what exactly was Omar Gosh working on in his Galactic Horror Files? We arrived at Omar Gosh's estate on a chilly autumn morning, our hearts racing with anticipation. The once grand mansion loomed before us, its windows like empty eyes staring back. We had been tracking the trail of clues for weeks, and finally, we had found ourselves standing at the threshold of Omar Gosh's private sanctum. As we stepped inside, a musty smell wafted out, carrying with it whispers of secrets long buried. Our team leader, Rachel, expertly unlocked the door to Omar Gosh's study, revealing a treasure trove of cryptic files, journals, and recordings that seemed to hold the key to understanding the enigmatic investigator's work. The room was a labyrinth of papers, documents, and notes, each one more intriguing than the last. We began to sift through the contents, our eyes scanning the pages for any sign of pattern or connection. As we delved deeper into Omar Gosh's files, a disturbing narrative emerged. The entries revealed an escalating series of events that led up to his fateful discovery, a discovery that would change the course of his life forever. Omar Gosh had been tracking a mysterious signal emanating from an ancient alien artifact, one that he believed held the secrets of the cosmos. He spent months studying the artifact's properties, poring over ancient texts, and scouring the globe for any sign of its existence. The entries became increasingly erratic, as if Omar Gosh was unraveling a thread that threatened to consume him whole. His writing grew more cryptic, his notes scrawled with frantic urgency. It was clear that he had stumbled upon something that he couldn't control, something that was playing with forces beyond human comprehension. As we continued to analyze the files, a chill ran down my spine. Omar Gosh had been warned repeatedly. He had encountered strange occurrences at every turn, from inexplicable noises in the night to unexplained visions that haunted his dreams. But he pressed on, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a conviction that the truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered. The final entry in the journal was dated just days before Omar Gosh's disappearance. It read, "I've made contact, I've seen it, I'll never be the same again." The words seemed to echo through the room, leaving us with more questions than answers. What had Omar Gosh seen? And what exactly did he mean by those haunting words? As we closed the journal, a faint humming noise began to emanate from the artifact on Omar Gosh's desk. It grew louder, pulsating with an otherworldly energy that seemed to be watching us, waiting for us to make our next move. We arrived at the location of Omar Gosh's final investigation, eager to set up our equipment and begin our research. The site was an abandoned asylum on the outskirts of town, a place rumored to be one of the most haunted places in the country. Our team leader, Rachel, had chosen it specifically because of its history. Omar Gosh had spent weeks investigating the asylum before his disappearance. We had expected minor poltergeist activity, perhaps some unexplained noises and movements, but nothing too out of the ordinary. As we began to set up our equipment, a sense of unease settled over us. The air was thick with an eerie energy, as if the very walls were watching us. At first, it was just small things, a door creaking open by itself, a faint whisper in the night. But as we delved deeper into the investigation, the activity intensified. Equipment would malfunction, and strange noises echoed through the corridors, whispers, screams, and disembodied voices that seemed to come from nowhere. We tried to remain calm, but it was impossible not to feel a sense of dread creeping over us. And then, there were the movements. Doors would slam shut on their own, and furniture would be rearranged as if by an invisible force. It was as if something was playing with us, toying with our perceptions of reality. The visual disturbances began soon after. Orbs would appear out of nowhere, floating in midair like ghostly apparitions. We tried to capture evidence, but the cameras would capture nothing, just a blank white screen. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before our eyes. Rachel and I exchanged a look of alarm, our minds racing with the implications. Omar Gosh's discovery had unleashed a malevolent force into the world, one that was now wreaking havoc on this location. We realized, too late, that we should have heeded Omar Gosh's warnings. His files had spoken of an ancient evil, one that would stop at nothing to claim its next victim. As the night wore on, the activity grew more intense, until it seemed like the entire asylum was alive with an otherworldly energy. We knew then that we had to get out to escape the clutches of something that was beyond our understanding. But as we packed up our equipment, a final message appeared on one of the cameras, a single, chilling word: "I'm still here." We arrived at the abandoned asylum on a crisp autumn afternoon, our hearts racing with anticipation. The once grand building loomed before us, its windows like empty eyes staring back. We had heard rumors of paranormal activity within these walls, and we were determined to capture some evidence. Our team leader, Rachel, expertly navigated the crumbling corridors, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. As we made our way deeper into the asylum, a sense of unease settled over us. It started with small things, creaks and groans that seemed to come from nowhere, and an unsettling feeling of being watched. We tried to brush it off as mere paranoia, but it was impossible not to feel like we were being stalked by unseen forces. And then, there were the voices. At first, they were just whispers, faint, indistinct sounds that seemed to come from all directions. But as we delved deeper into the asylum, the voices grew louder, more distinct. We could make out words, phrases, and even entire sentences. It was as if someone or something was trying to communicate with us. We set up our equipment, hoping to capture some evidence of the strange occurrences. But as we waited, a sense of unease began to creep over us. The atmosphere in the asylum grew increasingly oppressive until it felt like we were trapped in a living nightmare. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that unblinking eyes were trained on us from the shadows. Rachel and I exchanged a nervous glance, our minds racing with worst-case scenarios. And then, just as we were starting to relax, the lights flickered and died. We were plunged into darkness, surrounded by an oppressive silence. It was as if the very presence of the asylum had been extinguished, leaving us alone in the darkness. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. Rachel's hand closed around mine, her grip like a vice. "Stay calm," she whispered, her breath cold against my ear, but it was too late. The darkness seemed to press in on us until we felt like we were suffocating. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the lights flickered back to life. We were left standing there, frozen in terror, our hearts pounding in our chests. The days passed, and we had almost given up hope of hearing anything new about Omar Gosh's work. But then, the messages started arriving. At first, they were just a few words, scribbled on scraps of paper or typed out in cryptic emails. "Look closer at the artifact," one message read. "The truth is not what it seems," another warned. We were baffled who was sending these messages, and what did they want us to know? As we dug deeper into Omar Gosh's work, we began to suspect that an inside source might be feeding us information. The messages seemed to be coming from someone with access to classified information, or perhaps even a former colleague of Omar's. But the more we learned, the more questions we had. Were these messages genuine, or was it all just a clever ruse? We tried to verify the authenticity of the messages, but every lead ended in a dead end. It was as if our source was deliberately evading us, playing a cat-and-mouse game with our curiosity. The messages escalated in intensity and frequency until we were bombarded with cryptic warnings and tantalizing hints. "The artifact is not what you think it is," one message read. "You are getting close to the truth, but be careful." We were on edge, unsure of what to believe or who to trust. Was our source a friend or a foe? As the messages grew more urgent, we began to feel like we were in over our heads. Omar Gosh's work had always seemed like a puzzle, but now it was starting to look like a web of deceit and conspiracy. We knew that we had to be careful. If what these messages said was true, we might be playing with forces beyond our control. But as we delved deeper into the mystery, we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being pulled in too many directions. Who could we trust? And what lay at the heart of this conspiracy? The team had been searching for weeks, following every lead, every hint, every rumor about Omar Gosh's research. And finally we found it, a mysterious gate in the desert, buried beneath the sand like an ancient secret. The gate itself was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Its metal surface was etched with strange symbols and markings that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. We knew immediately that this was connected to Omar Gosh's work, but we had no idea what it meant or where it led. As we began to explore the gate further, we started to notice something strange. The air around us seemed to be thickening, as if the very atmosphere itself was growing heavy with anticipation. We set up our equipment, trying to get a sense of what was happening here, but the readings were inconclusive. It was as if the gate was absorbing our data, erasing it from existence. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over me, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as we delved deeper into the gate's mysteries, I began to realize that something more sinister was at play. We uncovered evidence of ancient rituals and human sacrifices, etched into the walls of the gate like a twisted testament to humanity's darker side. Omar Gosh had stumbled upon something much larger than himself, something that threatened to upend everything we thought we knew about history and science. As we explored further, I started to experience strange visions and hallucinations, flashes of images, sounds, and smells that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I saw ancient temples rising from the desert floor, their walls adorned with symbols that seemed to match the markings on the gate. I heard whispers in my ear, tempting me to step through the gate's threshold, to surrender to its secrets. And I smelled incense wafting on the wind, carrying with it a scent of death and decay. The visions grew stronger, more vivid, until I was convinced that I was being pulled into some kind of nightmare world. I knew I had to get out, but my feet seemed rooted to the spot. Omar Gosh's research had always been about uncovering the secrets of the universe, but now it seemed like he had stumbled upon something much darker, a doorway to a realm where humanity's deepest fears and desires lurked, waiting to be unleashed. We stepped out of our car and onto the crumbling driveway of the Omar Gosh estate, a sense of unease settling over us like a shroud. The once grand mansion loomed before us, its windows like empty eyes staring back. We had been warned about this place, rumors of strange occurrences, unexplained noises, and an aura of malevolence that seemed to cling to it like a bad omen. But we had to know more about Omar Gosh's research, and the team was determined to uncover the truth. As we approached the entrance, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The wind rustling through the trees seemed to carry an almost human whispering in my ear. We entered the mansion, our footsteps echoing off the walls as we made our way deeper into the heart of the estate. And then we found it, a hidden laboratory, tucked away behind a secret door like a forbidden secret. The room was a shrine to Omar Gosh's research, filled with disturbing artifacts and equipment that seemed to defy explanation. There were ancient-looking devices, their surfaces etched with symbols that glowed with an otherworldly light. There were also strange containers, filled with substances that seemed to shift and writhe like living things. And at the center of it all, a massive crystal orb pulsed with energy, its surface etched with a single word, Xenon. As we explored further, I realized that Omar Gosh had been working with an organization that sought to harness the power of ancient alien technology. They believed that these ancient beings had possessed knowledge and power beyond human comprehension, and that they could unlock the secrets of the universe by tapping into this energy. The team began to suspect that we were dealing with something far more sinister than we initially thought, a conspiracy that reached far beyond the world of science and into the very heart of humanity's existence. We knew that we had stumbled upon something much bigger than ourselves, something that could change the course of human history forever. But as we gazed deeper into the crystal orb, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were staring into the face of our own destruction. As we delved deeper into the mysteries of Omar Gosh's research, the occurrences around us began to escalate. At first, it was just small things, a door creaking open on its own, a faint whisper in the darkness. But as the days passed, the events grew more intense and unsettling. We started to experience unexplained noises, creaks and groans that seemed to come from nowhere, followed by an oppressive silence that left us feeling like we were being watched. I began to feel like I was living in a nightmare, where every door I opened led to another layer of terror. The team's behavior became increasingly erratic. Some members began to question their own sanity, convinced that the forces they had uncovered were playing tricks on them. Others grew paranoid, suspecting that one of their own was secretly working against them. I tried to remain calm, but it was getting harder by the day. We started to experience strange movements. Objects would shift and change position on their own, as if an unseen force was manipulating us. And then, there were the apparitions. At first, they were just fleeting glimpses of something out of the corner of my eye, a shadowy figure lurking in the corner of the room, or a faint outline of a face that seemed to be watching me from the darkness. But as time went on, the apparitions grew more solid, more real. We started to see things that couldn't possibly be explained, ghostly figures flitting around the edges of our vision, disembodied voices whispering in our ears. The team began to fracture under the strain, some members retreating into madness, while others became convinced that we were being hunted by malevolent forces. I was trapped in a living hell of my own making, tormented by visions and nightmares that seemed to come from beyond the veil of reality. And yet, despite everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it all, that Omar Gosh's research had unlocked secrets that were meant to remain buried. The forces we had unleashed were beyond human comprehension, and they would leave us shaken for the rest of our lives. As I looked around at my fellow investigators, I saw the fear in their eyes, a recognition that we had stumbled into something much bigger than ourselves, something that threatened to consume us all. The team knew it was a risk, but they had to get inside if they were going to stop the sinister plot that Omar Gosh had uncovered. They spent weeks gathering intel, studying the organization's tactics, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And then, one night, they finally got their chance. We snuck into the organization's headquarters, our hearts pounding in our chests as we made our way through the deserted corridors. We knew that if we were caught, it would be game over, but we had no choice. As we crept deeper into the heart of the building, we stumbled upon a hidden server room filled with classified documents and encrypted files. It was like stumbling into a treasure trove of secrets, and we dug in with reckless abandon. We spent hours poring over the documents, our eyes scanning the pages for any mention of Omar Gosh or his research. And then, it hit us, a revelation that would change everything. The documents revealed that Omar Gosh had been working with this organization all along, that he was just as ruthless and cunning as they were. But what really caught our attention was the scope of their plans, harnessing ancient alien technology for their own gain, using it to control the world's resources and shape humanity to their will. We realized that we had stumbled into something much bigger than ourselves, something that threatened humanity's very existence. As we delved deeper into the organization's inner workings, we uncovered evidence of a sinister plot to exploit the alien technology for their own gain. We saw documents detailing plans to harness its power, to use it to manipulate world events and shape the course of human history. It was like something out of a nightmare, a conspiracy that went all the way to the top, with powerful people pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And at the center of it all was Omar Gosh, the man who had unleashed this horror upon the world. We knew we had to act fast before it was too late. But as we turned to leave, we were met with a surprise. The organization's leader, a figure we had assumed was just a myth, stood in front of us, his eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intensity. "You shouldn't have come here," he hissed, his voice dripping with menace. "Now you're part of the problem." As we gazed into the leader's eyes, I knew that we had reached a point of no return. We couldn't turn back now, not after seeing the evidence for ourselves. "You're not telling us something," I said, my voice firm but laced with a hint of fear. The leader smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Oh, we are," he replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "We are revealing the truth behind Omar Gosh's files." He gestured to one of his henchmen, who stepped forward carrying a large briefcase. "This is what we've been hiding from you all along." The henchman opened the case, revealing stacks of documents and photographs that made our blood run cold. Omar Gosh was not the only one who had uncovered an ancient alien artifact, he began. There were others before him, others who had delved into the mysteries of the universe without realizing the consequences. The leader leaned forward, his voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. You see, there are those in power who have always known about the existence of extraterrestrial life. They've been hiding it from us all these years, using their influence and wealth to keep the truth under wraps. As he spoke, the documents began to reveal a shocking web of corruption that went all the way to the top. Corrupt government officials, powerful organizations, and shadowy figures with unknown agendas were all connected in a sinister plot to harness ancient alien technology for their own gain. We're not just talking about some fringe group of conspiracy theorists. One of our team members whispered, her eyes wide with horror. This is a global-scale operation. The leader nodded, his smile growing wider. Yes, it's a lot bigger than that. And you know what the worst part is? He paused for dramatic effect. You're not even the first ones to suspect something is off. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the true extent of our discovery. We had stumbled upon something much bigger than ourselves, something that threatened to consume us all. The team looked at each other in stunned silence, our minds reeling from the implications. What did this mean for humanity? Would we ever be able to uncover the truth and stop these sinister forces before it was too late? As we stood in the dimly lit chamber, surrounded by ancient artifacts and forbidden knowledge, I couldn't help but feel a sense of desperation creeping over me. We had to contain this malevolent force, no matter what it took. The team had spent weeks researching and preparing for this moment, poring over ancient texts and seeking out long-lost rituals that might hold the key to banishing the entity back to wherever it came from. But as we began to perform the ritual, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were making a grave mistake. The words of the incantation seemed to dance on my lips like a dark mantra, and the air was thick with an otherworldly energy that made my skin crawl. As we continued, the team's anxiety grew, their eyes darting nervously towards the shadows as if expecting some unseen presence to leap out at us at any moment. I glanced around, searching for reassurance from my teammates, but they were all pale and shaken, their faces illuminated only by the flickering candles that cast eerie silhouettes on the walls. The ritual seemed to be working, or so we thought. The entity's presence began to recede, its dark tendrils retreating like a withdrawing tide. But as the final words of the incantation were spoken, a sudden jolt ran through me, followed by an icy coldness that spread through my veins like liquid steel. I stumbled backwards, gasping for breath, and that was when I saw it. A faint glow on the wall, like a tiny sun breaking through the clouds. The malevolent force had not been banished. It had merely grown stronger, its power now a palpable, living thing that pulsed with an evil intensity. The team's eyes went wide as they realized what we had done. We had unleashed this monster upon the world, and now it was coming for us. I tried to speak, but my voice was caught in my throat. All I could manage was a terrified whisper. What have we done? The darkness closed in around us like a shroud, and I knew that our only hope lay in fleeing into the unknown, pursued by an ancient evil that would stop at nothing to consume us all. As we gazed into the leader's eyes, I knew that we had reached a point of no return. We couldn't turn back now, not after seeing the evidence for ourselves. "You're not telling us something," I said, my voice firm but laced with a hint of fear. The leader smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Oh, we are," he replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "We are revealing the truth behind Omar Gosh's files. He gestured to one of his henchmen, who stepped forward carrying a large briefcase. "This is what we've been hiding from you all along." The henchman opened the case, revealing stacks of documents and photographs that made our blood run cold. Omar Gosh was not the only one who had uncovered an ancient alien artifact, he began. There were others before him, others who had delved into the mysteries of the universe without realizing the consequences. As we listened in horror, the henchman revealed that Omar Gosh's discovery had unleashed a being from another realm, a creature so powerful it threatened to destroy entire galaxies. The leader's eyes gleamed with an otherworldly intensity as he continued. "And you know what the worst part is?" He paused for dramatic effect. "You're not even the first ones to suspect something is off." A chill ran down my spine as I realized the true extent of our discovery. We had stumbled upon something much bigger than ourselves, something that threatened to consume us all. The team looked at each other in stunned silence, our minds reeling from the implications. What did this mean for humanity? Would we ever be able to uncover the truth and stop these sinister forces before it was too late? As we stood there, frozen in terror, the leader began to laugh, a sound that was both familiar and yet completely alien. It was then that I saw him, standing behind the henchman, his eyes blazing with an otherworldly energy. He was tall, impossibly tall, with skin like dark marble and hair that seemed to writhe like living shadow. His face was twisted into a grotesque grin, revealing teeth that shone like polished onyx. "Welcome, mortals," he said, his voice like a cold wind blowing through my mind. "I am Jathik, the bringer of darkness and the harvester of souls." The team gasped in unison as Jathik raised his hand, and the air seemed to ripple with energy. We knew then that we were fighting not just for our lives, but for the very fabric of reality itself. As the battle raged on, I realized that humanity was doomed to repeat the same mistakes forever. Our reckless ambition would always lead us down this path, towards destruction and chaos. And yet, even in the face of such horror, I felt a spark of defiance ignite within me. We would not go quietly into the night. We would fight, and we would die on our feet, rather than surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume us all. The final confrontation had begun, and only one thing was certain. Only one of us would emerge victorious.